Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica with Memory Box Candle Co. and I make videos all about the journey of starting a candle business. In today's video, I am going to be diving into the pros and cons of selling on the wholesale platform called Faire. Now, if you're not familiar with what Faire is basically a marketplace, kind of like Etsy, to where it connects wholesalers and retailers together. So personally, I have a candle business. I've only been on it for a very short amount of time, so this is just kind of my limited experience so far on the platform, but I really just wanted to take you through my personal pros and cons list of selling on Faire. Hi, it's me, just interrupting this video real fast just to let you know that I do offer a handmade business planner for any business owner that is looking to get organized. I have a digital planner template that you're able to use to help with organization, planning, and structure within your weekly routine. I know how overwhelming it can be, and this has really helped me. So if you're looking for something like this, go ahead and click on the first link in the description box below. So I first do want to start off with the pros of selling on Faire, because overall I have had a very good experience on the platform. And the main reason behind that is because it is similar to Etsy, like I had just mentioned, to where it is a marketplace. So what that does is it kind of opens you up to a bunch of different retailers that you may not have found prior to getting on the platform, or may not have wanted to purchase your products at all because they would have had no idea who you were. So much like Etsy, it allows a bunch of different potential buyers to purchase from you, because they get thousands and thousands of retailers to purchase from the platform all the time. So it really just kind of opens you up to be able to have the ability to connect with all of these different retailers that you may not have otherwise. And another thing that I really do like about Faire is how easy it is for those retailers to make a purchase from you. So from what I've heard, even just the comment section of my videos from people who have purchased on Faire, is that retailers actually prefer to purchase on Faire because it makes the transaction process much smoother. It's not something to where you have to contact and connect individually with all of these different wholesalers. You're able to kind of cut all of that out, cut out all of these different websites that people have for their own wholesale business, and purchase directly on the same platform and order from these different companies for your brick and mortar store. Another huge pro to Faire is the shipping process. I love the way they do this. So basically what it works out to on Faire is you don't have to set any shipping prices as the seller on there. Everything is on the buyer's end, or if the buyer has, I believe it's like the Faire Insider program, Faire covers shipping. So it's a very seamless and easy process as a seller on the platform. All you're responsible for is just putting in the dimensions and the weight of each of your products, and then making sure that you're putting, the case quantities of how many they need to order for minimums. And then when it comes to the actual shipping process, Faire kind of gets an estimate of knowing about how much the package is going to weigh based on the item dimensions and the weight that you inputted for each of the items. So anything that the seller purchases from you, it kind of gets an estimation of how much the package is going to weigh. And then all you do is in the shipping area, all you do is input the dimensions of the package and the weight, choose the carrier option, print out the label, put it on the package. And I think one of the things that I love the most about this is that we don't have to essentially front the money for shipping in order to then get it back. So for instance, in any of my other wholesale orders that go directly through my website, I am paying for shipping. It's coming out of my bank account, and then the buyer does pay for shipping, but of course it's kind of one of those, like, let's say it's $100 in shipping that has to come out of my bank account, and then I have to wait for it to be deposited back in. I love how on Faire there's no kind of transactions that are being taken out of my bank account. It's all done on the platform, and there's no money actually coming out of the bank account. Having done that so many times with shipping and having all the transactions, usually from pirate ship, coming out of my bank account, it's really nice not having to have that happen. Something else that I really like on the Faire platform is that you're able to print out packing slips. Now, I can print out a packing slip at any time for any of the orders. It doesn't have to just be during the shipping process. And we actually use that as an invoice or like a purchase order when we have everything kind of all the orders stacked over in a certain area in the candle studio, so we know exactly what is in each order. And then when Chris is prepping everything is just kind of there. He likes to highlight things when he is done making it so that it's kind of staying organized. And usually with any of my direct wholesale and white label customers, I am manually inputting all of the purchase order information, and I don't typically have anything that gets printed out automatically. I'm usually kind of formatting that myself. So to be able to have that automatically formatted and just print it out is a huge help and time saver, and I personally really like that. Another huge pro to being on the Faire platform is the fact that your product can be distributed amongst the country or internationally if that's something that you want to offer to international retailers. As of right now, we are just staying within the US, but we may possibly open up to the international market. I'm not too sure yet. But it does allow you to kind of get your product out there that, again, you may not have otherwise if you didn't have the ability to work with different retailers that are in different states and, you know, all across the United States. And knowing that your product can be distributed and go into the hands of consumers that, again, you may have not had as an actual customer if you weren't on the Faire platform. I really think that that's a huge benefit, and it can really help with kind of scaling your business and really getting your brand awareness out there. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is the fact that Faire is kind of like the middleman that works to help protect both the seller and the buyer. So there are, of course, pros and cons to each of that for the platform. But as a seller on the platform, what's really nice is that they guarantee that you're going to get paid no matter what. So that is definitely something that is a huge pro of being on a platform like that, when you don't necessarily know who is purchasing from you and when it can be quite a large amount of items at once. Now, we did find out that you should wait 24 hours before making any orders on Faire after you get the order, because the buyer does have the option to cancel. So that's what we had learned. But once it's kind of past that 24 hours and we know that we can go ahead and start making the order, then it's kind of all good to go there. And then I have also heard that if there is an issue or something that happens in the first transaction with a retailer, and let's say the retailer wants to return the items, they actually just return it back to Faire. And I think Faire just kind of does whatever they do with the product, and they basically give the money back to the buyer, and then we as sellers get the money. We don't have to refund the money ourselves to the buyer. As a seller, you do get to keep that money. As far as I know, that's how it works. I've heard that that can happen with that first transaction if there is an issue and if the buyer does want to return the items. It's kind of like an extra layer of protection as a seller. So now that we have talked about the pros of selling on Faire, I do want to talk about the cons, because of course there is always that balance. There's never going to be a time where you are going to be on a platform or doing something to where there's not going to be pros and cons about it. So let's go ahead and get into some of the cons. And I think the biggest thing that a lot of you out there would have the biggest issue with would be the fees that Faire takes. Now, keep in mind, as I said before, it's kind of like Etsy. It's a marketplace. They're bringing customers to you, so they are going to want a commission for bringing that customer to you. So in the past, I believe it was very recently that they made this change, but in the past it used to be at every first new transaction from a retailer, Faire would take 25%, and then every reoccurring transaction from that retailer would be 15%. They changed it to be 15% plus a flat $10 fee for that first transaction, and then any kind of subsequent order after that is just 15%. I personally actually am very happy that they made that change. As a seller, I do save more money that way. Instead of taking 25%, taking the 15% plus a $10 flat fee for any new order from a retailer actually is less money out of my pocket. That's just how it works for me. I don't know if that's how it works for all the sellers, but when I did the math on it, I'm like, hey, I'd rather take that. Of course, you don't want to give up any of your percentage of your profits, but again, looking at the pros and cons, you have to just decide on whether or not it's something that's right for you or something that makes sense for you. Specifically, if you have to kind of really look at your profit margin, your gross profit margin, and really see if that's something that you are able to do without completely losing, you don't want to lose out on money. The next big con is that there are 30 to potentially 60-day payouts. And it's not just from when they place the order, it's from when you ship the order. So let's say you get an order on the 1st of the month and you get it shipped out on, let's say, the 10th of the month. So it's not until that following month on the 10th that you would get paid out from that retailer. So what we've been experiencing without actually getting a payout yet is you have to front a lot in the beginning. So I can see how this can be kind of something that you need to work up to be able to kind of get that reoccurring and more consistent income coming in every month, because definitely feeling it of, spending more on supplies, shipping materials, all that kind of stuff. Like you're spending a lot in the beginning and then having to wait a longer period of time in order to actually receive that income back. So that's definitely a con in my opinion. We are getting pretty close to getting our first payout, so definitely looking forward to that. But it has been a little bit difficult, and I could see it definitely affecting a lot of other businesses if you're not prepared for that. So definitely know that ahead of time, that you do have to front a lot of the costs and the money that goes into the extra supplies and materials and all that kind of stuff that goes into it. So just know that going into it when you are joining Faire and then kind of starting to gain momentum on the platform, that you do have to wait 30 days. And I think some transactions can be up to 60 days. I think that if you refer somebody to the platform or you use your direct link or something like that, I think they give 60-day incentives for paying. Like you can pay within 60 days. I actually don't know how it works on the buyer's end. I just know on the seller's end, it's just a lot of waiting to get paid. The next con is that there's no wholesale contracts. Now, that's something that I'm very familiar with when I work with my wholesalers and my white label clients. I'm very used to having wholesale contracts. But I think the main reason why I feel a little bit more comfortable on this platform with no contracts is because there is that middleman of Faire. So I feel like that kind of adds a little bit layer of protection in terms of like, the payments and all that kind of stuff, the terms, everything that goes into it. So that's just something that I kind of noticed, but I didn't want to not be on the platform because of that. But that was just something that I wanted to add in as a con, because I personally have always had wholesale contracts with my clients. And then the last couple that I have on the cons list is that, of course, like Etsy, like I've been saying this whole video, it's competitive. There are other sellers in your category that could potentially, you could be right next to somebody and you are basically competing side by side with these other businesses, with these other brands. So that's something to think about as well. And that's why I took so much time in creating my shop and trying to make it the best that I possibly could to try to stand out. And even then, you're not going to be able to appeal to every single retailer, because that's just not how it works. There's always going to be retailers that are going to like another brand over yours, or like your brand over somebody else's, and that's just how it works. So that's why, there's so many different types of brands and looks and aesthetics and all that kind of stuff out there. But just know that it is competitive, and you will not be the only candle business brand on the platform. So definitely know that going into it. And then the very last one is that, and this is what I heard and kind of watched videos on when I was looking to get onto the platform, is that Faire can be just very transactional. There's not a lot of connection to you and the retailer. But for me personally, I'm trying to mend that bridge. I don't know if that's the correct term. I'm basically trying to open up communication as much as I can. So anybody that places an order, I always will send them a message thanking them for their order, letting them know we're going to get started on it and shipped out as soon as possible, letting them know we're going to add in samples of our other scents, let them know if they have any questions, they can always reach out. And that just kind of opens up this line of communication. And most of the time, the retailer will respond. I would say probably about 60% of the time they respond, 40% of the time they don't. And I don't get offended. I understand if, there's these retailers are busy, they're just placing an order wanting to, add more products to their shop. But I also add in a card, just a thank you card, in with their actual package as well. And I'm really just trying to have more of that communication. And I already have had a good amount of communication back and forth with some of these different brands. And I have really, enjoyed it and appreciated it. But I understand how the platform in and of itself is kind of set up to just be very transactional, and not a lot of relationship building between the buyer and the seller. But so far, being a newbie on the platform, those are what I have found to be the pros and cons of being on the platform. If you are currently on the platform, let me know, what are your pros and cons? Would you ever join Faire? Are you trying to join Faire? Are you waitlisted or haven't heard back from them for months and months like I did the second time around? It took me a long time to get back on the platform the second time around. So let me know in the comment section below. But with that, I think I am going to end today's video right here. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave it a big thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to follow me over on Instagram at Memory Box Candle Co. And I will see you in my next video.